Welcome back to Empowering Real Talk. It's your girl, Coach K. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in. Listen, before we get started, please make sure you have subscribed to the Upgraded MindsetZ media channel. If you are listening on your favorite streaming platform, then make sure you favorite Empowering Real Talk so you don't miss the new episodes, because we are currently in full swing with new episodes streaming. So I thank you guys so much for being here. If you see my beautiful face, then you see I'm not alone. So I'm going to allow my guest the honor of introducing herself. Hello.
Hello, Coach K. I'm Amy Weinland Daughters, and I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you. We are going to talk about something that may be a little unique, but I definitely feel like this is a conversation that is super necessary. So, Amy, please dive a little bit into what you do and why we're here today.
All right, great. Well, I'm an author and a speaker, a freelance writer. Those are the things I do. And I came into this story or my topic completely by accident. I like to tell the story that I was just minding my own business, because I was. So I had written one book. I don't think it had been published yet. And then I just was on Facebook one day, like we all, like to do.
Right.
And a girl's name popped in my head from 30 years ago, who I had worked at a summer camp with, had no contact with for all those years. And I was like, oh, I typed her name in. Voila, there she was. And, since it didn't mean anything, I just friend requested her. She accepted. I didn't know if she really remembered me.
Right.
And so I spent the obligatory 7 minutes, scrolling through her life and seeing what happened for her. And I realized right away she'd overachieved in children. She has 5 kids. The youngest is the only son, and his name is Parker. And right away I figure out that he's fighting cancer. And he's fighting cancer at the St. Jude Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, which gotta mean it's pretty serious if you're there.
Yeah.
And so right away, as a human being, as a fellow mom, I became invested in the story. But I kind of felt like I was overfeeling it but I didn't. So I follow along with these people's story out of interest. And they asked for people to pray, so I did that. That was kind of my thing. But I never hit like. I never commented on any of her posts, because I felt like that was disingenuous, since I didn't really know these people.
Right.
And so he goes into remission. That's relief. It's relief. But then at the end of that year, the cancer comes back, and they're going to go back to Memphis. And I sat at my desk one Monday morning after hearing this, and it was like a thunderbolt, like a lightning bolt hit me. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start writing them little supportive cards and sending them to the Ronald McDonald House where they were staying in Memphis. Okay, this despite the fact, and I like to tell this story in different levels of me being crazy, basically. So like DEFCON 5, I'm gonna write these people handwritten notes. The kid has no clue who I am. I have not talked to this woman, had any contact with her in 30 something years. And I have not written anyone a handwritten card in like 25 years. I did that growing up, but it's not like I was the letter writing lady coming into the story.
Right.
Nothing about that. Yeah, I was on some mission. So I was so sure of what I was supposed to do. So I did it. So I had a writing schedule. So I would just add them to my writing schedule. Every Sunday I'd write a card and I'd mail it on Monday. And then about 10 weeks into writing it, of course I didn't hear back, because they're battling cancer, So about 10 weeks later, you can tell things aren't going well. And all my information is coming from Facebook. And then unthinkably, and there's no good words for any of this, has nothing to do with me, but Parker passes away at only 15 years old. And so I know it has nothing to do with me, but I sent a condolence card, because that's the right thing to do. And then I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it was like mini lightning bolt. Just keep writing her letters. Only now I had to figure out where she actually lived, because this is Facebook, right? And so I was like, oh, wait, I had met her husband the year before at camp. And I was like, I think he's an attorney. Someone had told me that. So I'm like, oh, I'll just send the letters. DEFCON 3 of craziness. Like, she's lost her son. So what you should do is send letters to her husband's law office address, because that's a good idea, like crazy. So I just keep writing her. Like week after week, I write her every Sunday and I mail it on Monday. And it starts out to be cards, like, I'm thinking of you, I'm sorry. And then I just start writing about my life, because what else are you going to say? And so I just keep writing these letters every week. I tell myself, "You're crazy. You're nuts. This is dumb." Every week I keep writing because I can't stop.
Yeah.
And then about 4 or 5 months into writing her, and I'm just about thinking maybe I should stop writing her, I go out to my mailbox and there's a 10-page handwritten letter from this woman. And this kicks off 2 years of us communicating exclusively through the US mail.
Mm.
Like no emails, no texts. And it happened so not intentionally.
Yeah.
I was shocked when she wrote me back. And she, in her first letter, opened up about her grief. And I would have never expected that. At the end of the letter, she said, "You know what? I didn't intend to write any of that, but I feel good about it."
Yeah.
And so we communicate every week for 2 years, and it opens up this free space between the two of us, two strangers basically, where I don't know when she's reading what I said, and
Mhm.
she has no idea when I or if I'm reading anything. So we
Right.
open up because you don't have the other person sitting across from you. It's just crossing in the mail. She opens about her grief, then she starts telling me about her entire life. I open up about my life. I'm looking at my life from the outside in these letters, so it's super cathartic.
Yeah.
And the best part is I have no idea how she votes, like what her socioeconomic situation is, like how she stands on gender issues. And I have no idea about any
Mhm.
of that. All I know is I care about this person desperately. Yes, because she lost her son, but also because she's opened up to me and I've opened up to her. I know I've never told anyone this, but I'm going to tell you this in writing, like, and trust you with it.
Yeah.
And we would have trusted each other with anything, regardless of the fact that our connection was completely in writing. And it really changed the way I looked at everything,
Yeah, I bet.
from her grief
I
to the way I
bet.
looked at my own life. I looked at everyone differently because here's this Facebook friend who I know better than I know my own sister.
Yep.
And so I sat back after about 8 months of our pen paling, and I was like, if this can happen from this one random girl, then what else is going on with these other 600 Facebook people? Like what other untapped goodness? Like what else can I learn? And so then I went all world nuts, like bananagrams. I was like, I'm writing everybody a letter. Every one of these people is getting a letter. And so I printed out, I got an Excel spreadsheet, like put everybody's name in it. I bought stationery, I got a journal, and I was like, let's go. And I never in a bazillion years thought I was going to finish. I thought I'd get to like 15 letters and be like, peace out, I've learned my
I'm done.
lesson.
Right, right.
But it was momentum, whatever you want to call it. I mean, once I got into the hundreds of letters, I realized this is going to be probably the most important thing I ever do in my life, um, because there was no, I was just doing it to do
Yeah.
it, and people were just blown away. And there were so many layers of this changing my life that I wrote a book about it, that I speak about it, and I didn't even write the book to sell books. I mean, the
Yeah.
book's done great. I wrote the book because I realized the universe or God, or however you want to frame it, had given me this incredible story of hope that I get to share with the whole world.
Yep. And that's exactly where I get what I get from that. Like when you shared with me the story before, it was like just so unique but so amazing because I think in our society now we have like completely lost that aspect of things, right? We are not personable. We're like almost robotic around here. So the fact that one, you took the initiative, your empathy actually created an amazing firestorm of communication, but also support. Those letters I know were probably such a powerful supportive factor for her on both levels. When you first started, to the remission, to going back to the death, like I can't even imagine, but I love, and you said the word that I actually grew up with, and that was pen pal. We used to do that in school. We used to
Mhm.
have pen pals. I think my pen pal used to be in Alaska, and those things were fun to me. I enjoyed that. English and writing and literature was like one my best subjects, so I enjoyed that. But I feel like we've gotten so far away with that, with social media and the digital age, just as a whole. One of the things that I see in just speaking with teachers and just being involved community wise is the lack of writing that students have now. They don't know how to write cursive. They're not teaching cursive anymore. Like none of that is going on. And I'm baffled as to why. But it's unfortunate, but I feel like that we need to get back into that, with regards to really stepping in and being personable again and being able to write. I love to write. I have notebooks, I have pens, I have journals. I do all of that. Do I do the digital age? Absolutely. But I also still write and I still journal. Ironically enough, you say that. I journaled when I began this shift of mine in 2020. I journaled every day for 30 days, and that's what I actually turned into my book. So, my book was not a book that I was intentionally putting out there. It was my journal that I turned into that. But that was the writing side of things for me, and I feel like we've just gotten so far away from that.
Right. And there's science attached. And again, I didn't do this because there's science attached. I
Right.
did this because I was some crazy, woman. But there's science attached to handwriting anything, whether it's journaling or writing someone a letter or writing a note that does something to the writer's brain, that releases some endorphins in your brain that don't get released otherwise. And, social media and electronic communication is so necessary. I mean, my story's not my story without social media.
Right.
So bashing Facebook, I mean, to me, that does nothing because without Facebook, I don't have my life changing story.
That's true.
It's a jump off point for
Yeah.
real relationship. But what it gives us, it's almost what AI gives us. AI gives us that anything that's done without AI becomes more special.
Mhm.
And that's what letter, and I like to frame it as note writing because you don't have to write a 2-page letter to have impact with handwriting.
Right, right.
And you don't have to write 600 letters. That's nuts. That's a nut job, 100%. But it gets me in the door to
Yeah,
talk about it. That's all it does. But you can do it in 2 sentences. You can do it or do what's in your heart. If you're the 9-page girl, do that. But you can do this in 2 sentences. And when you bring up teachers, it makes me think. We talked before, but Dana of Dear Dana, she's a teacher. She's an English teacher, like a
mhm.
writing and reading teacher for fourth graders. And when our story became our story and we were pen paling, she had her class pen pal like another class and like brought it back. This was like 2018,
I love it.
because of this story. And so I think, to your teacher people listening, there's an opportunity. There is a space to create that for kids.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I feel like just handwriting things and sending cards and sending letters, it gives that level of connection because you hear people all the time, "Oh, let's connect, let's connect." Sending me a friend request or sending a digital message, yeah, it could be connecting, but I'm kind of a deep thinker, right? I'm kind of someone that likes to go deeper, hence empowering real talk. Hence these conversations are necessary. I like to dig deeper. So to be able to get a letter, get a card, read it and say, I actually have people that will mail me cards here in my office, and it's somebody that I have either spoke to once before, they've listened to the podcast, they've been a client prior and they've sent me letters and they're like, I just want to let you know, keep doing what you're doing, you're being amazing. To see that handwritten, I'm not going to lie, it does something a little more to me than actually reading it on a social media comment, right?
Right,
Because I still crave that personal connection.
right,
I still enjoy that. I still enjoy having conversations, but also following up with a letter, with a note. I love to write my signature still. My signature, it might be a little scribbly, but I still enjoy writing my signature. So
right,
just being able to do those things. So like I said, although digital messages are cool, and we know they're convenient, like you said, we can't live without it at this point. We're in that age. It is what it is. But sometimes I feel like it doesn't give that warmth. It doesn't give that personality that I love. A text message can be misconstrued in so many ways,
right,
right? But I feel like in a letter, someone is literally pouring their heart out or telling you they might be, unsatisfied or angry or something. But I feel like writing that out, that it's coming from the soul because
right.
they're taking the time to write that out.
Well, and
So,
that's it. And what I didn't realize, Coach K, I mean, this all sounds so simplistic, but what I didn't realize is what you're going to show someone by sending them a handwritten note
yeah.
is that they are valued that's how much they are valued, because you're going to create this moment at the mailbox that
Yep.
I did not understand. They're going to hold, and there's something intimate about holding in your hand
It is.
something that your friend has held in their hand, you know? And so you are holding this. So there's point one. You're holding something that was intended just for you, that
Right.
has zero monetary value, but they're going to hold that in their hand before they even open it and hear what you had to say. They're going to connect the dots in their head. They're going to think, Coach K had to sit down. She had to find the paper, wait, where are the pens? Uh, Do we have envelopes?
Yep.
Wait, what is your address even? Because I don't know how we do that. And then,
Right.
right, and where are the stamps? Because I don't even know we have those anymore. We all used to have stamps. And then the next level, you got to lick that nasty envelope, and you got to drive across town and find the blue mailbox or the post office, and you got to drop it in. And
Yep.
that person's going to be like, Coach K sacrificed this much, dink, 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 valuable time, took the time to do it, made the effort, sacrificed it for me. That's how much I
Yep.
matter to another human being. And I'll tell you what, I had no idea. It was like boom, boom, boom. These people were like, best thing that's happened to me this year was that letter.
Yeah.
And when the book came out, people came. We had like a 17 stop book tour. People came to every one of those stops with their letters in pristine condition, like they were rock stars. And that was before there was going to be a book or a
Oh, yeah.
speech. Because in the number one response, the most common response I got from those 600 letters was this: I will save your letter in a special place for the rest of my life.
Man,
Boom.
that is so amazing.
And it's
Because
this.
we still crave that as human beings. We still
No,
crave that.
you made someone seen and valued
Yep.
and important. And I told every one of those people in the letters, the opening paragraph was, my friend Dana lost her son, Parker. I reconnected with her through letters. I'm crazy. I'm writing all 580 of my Facebook friends a letter. I am a nut job. So I told them, I'm writing every one of you people. And so many people said, you chose me. I was chosen. I was like, no, the box chose you. The Excel spreadsheet has chosen you. It was not me. But that was a
Yep.
complete reflection on how they felt.
Yep.
And those it blew me away over and over again, just what the depth of meaning. And here we have this, it's almost too easy. Every human being has this in their little human being toolkit, whether you use it at work, whether you use it at home. I've spoken to groups. I spoke to a real estate group, and I was like, why would the real estate people want me? Because this can be used anywhere where there's a relationship between two humans that can be enhanced, improved, whatever, depth and deepened, whatever you want to call the
Yeah.
word,
Yep.
because we all have this tool in our toolkit. We don't have to be writers. We don't have to be crazy people.
Yep.
We just have to have a human heart, sincerity, and a pen. That's all that's
Man.
required
That's a
to get
powerful
this done.
combination. Simple, but powerful. It still fosters that connection. It still fosters that mindfulness for yourself, but also for others. And it still keeps you creative because I feel like we're losing our creative streaks as individuals. So I think doing this and like she said, you guys, you don't have to write 600 letters, but sometimes writing one single letter, maybe to a family member, sometimes our elders, just giving you guys a little bit of insight. We are losing a lot of people at alarming rates around here. I hear my community, our community is struggling because every other day I'm seeing where somebody has passed away. you know um I actually know where somebody has written a letter and they put it in there, with that loved one, at their burial, and things like that. Those type of personal things are so intimate, but I feel like they're so still needed out here because we are really losing emotion. We are just becoming so robotic in things. And it's unfortunate. I don't want to see that. I want us to still be able to be humans. And that means embracing all of our emotions, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's an anger emotion, you're writing an angry letter. I still encourage you to do that because you're able to get that off. My clients, when we work together, I tell them in the beginning, they have to write a letter to self. Now, I don't make it a require I do kind of make it a requirement, but I don't tell them I have to read it, right? They can keep it for themselves, but I want them to do it. Write a letter to self. That's one of the things that I did starting on my journey, and that was probably one of the biggest shifts that changed my life because I actually started from current and went back and just like addressed like all of the things that the traumas, the struggles, the ups, the downs, the yeses, the nos. I was able to address all of that. So by doing that, it changed my life. So I encourage anybody, and if you're listening to this, write a letter to yourself if you don't want to write it to anybody else.
Right. No, and that's incredibly powerful, writing a letter to yourself. Again, it's reminds me of my experience of telling Dana all my business
Yeah.
because it was kind of, she says this, it was Dear Diary. It's still Dear Diary as
Yeah.
much as it is Dear Dana. And I'm a better person after writing her because
Oh, I
I
bet.
see my life. And that's
Yep.
exactly what you're talking about because they are kind of letters to self,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And but that power, you're going to see yourself in a different way, and I think you're going to be a better version of yourself
Yeah.
from doing it, and that's a super powerful step. And I also like what you said about writing to elders, because if you really want to fire up the elders, I mean, they're letter writers. Send those people a letter, and it's as simple as saying, hey, I appreciate you,
Yep.
I love you. And I was thinking about how, because when I wrote the letters, the Facebook letters, like I remember a letter I wrote to my uncle, and I said, we would ride home. I worked at my uncle's office when I
Mm.
was in high school. We would ride home. You would let me drive your Suburban when I was learning to drive, and I never thanked you for that because you let this 16-year-old yoo-hoo drive the Suburban to the back to suburbia, and but I never thanked him for, but you just think those things pop in your head, just write them down.
Yep.
Write them
Just write
down.
them down.
And
Yep.
and then but what it does to you, the writer, it's almost writing yourself. What it does, because what I thought is, oh, I'm going to tell all these people how I feel about them, and because I had to fill the letter with something, and they ended up
Yeah.
being meaningful, But what it did to me was even more powerful than what it did to them, because my assumption was it was going to make them feel good. But all of a sudden, my grateful meter and the way I saw people was completely different after writing all these letters. It was like, oh my gosh, these people all came into my life at the right time, whether we danced at a wedding together
Yep.
and or we lived next door to each other for 15 years, because I ended up over and over again seeing people's individuals
Yep.
because I had to say something, and then seeing them in my life and being grateful for them. I
Yep.
mean, it completely changed my perspective on every single person.
Absolutely. And I love that. I will say this, although she has a very unique story, guys, of, writing letters to other people, I highly encourage you to pick up a pen and write something. If whether it's a journal, whether it is, things that you want to do. I encourage writing anything. My clients know I provide them with journals when we begin because they need to take notes. They need to be able to bring things back to me. What I don't encourage is us leaving things in our head, because that is where I struggled so many years of just keeping things inside of my head. I was unfulfilled in life. I was unsatisfied. I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do because I didn't know. I was so clouded in my head. So I write everything down. I have a list just for the week of things that I'm going to do, writing those things down. So whether you are interested in writing to somebody or just writing to yourself, I highly encourage to get back to the basics of a pen and a paper.
Right.
That is so important. I feel like we need to be back there. We need to be well rounded. Yes, social media is not going anywhere. AI is not going anywhere. We know all of that. But just because those things are readily available for you does not mean you should not be still utilizing the old school way of communication. And I believe that that's going to keep us well rounded, but keep us mentally healthy as well.
Right. And there's so much science attached to that I knew nothing about. And you were spot on
Yep.
about, living a handwritten life is kind of the, tagline maybe. Go
Yeah.
live a handwritten life.
Ooh,
And
I
it
like
doesn't, like
that.
you said, journal it,
Yep.
do however you want to do it,
Exactly.
and that, I think that will actually inspire you to write other people if that's what you're,
Yeah.
led to do. But that practice will
Yep.
absolutely is a game changer. And I
Don't
think you're
lose
doing
your
that.
writing. Don't lose your writing skills, y'all. Don't lose them, okay?
Right.
And if you still have, young people around you, teach them. Get them involved. There are people around here that still do those type of things. They still tutor, they still teach. I know that that's not something that's mandatory in a lot of these schools anymore, but that doesn't mean that we don't need it.
Right.
Because as we know, there are a lot of things being taken away that we know are still needed in our society. So
Right.
I'm gonna leave that there and save that for another conversation. But Amy, I would love to know like what's upcoming for you, with on this journey. I know that you've been doing tours and have the books and everything. What's coming up for you?
Well, you know, the Dear Dana book, I mean, speaking about that has become and I never would have thought, I mean, the book's been out for a couple years, but
Yeah.
I probably do 4 or 5 podcasts a week and I talk about letter writing and note writing. I had no idea. And again, I'm like a small business person. I'm an author, but that
Yeah.
really, I feel like this is my life message. I am working on another book,
I
which
love
I'm
it.
excited about, but this topic has so much traction and keeps me so busy, which
That's
is
good.
which is which is great because what
We
what
know that
better
we want it and we know
right
that people want it. Yep.
what better spot to be in to be able to speak about something and to meet people in a topic that I believe so
Yep.
deeply in. And the topic has connected to me to people like you, like-minded people who are just, out there trying to make the world a better place, trying to get
Yes.
individuals in a better place. So I'm a kind of a I'm an empty nester recently, so I'm kind of in a I'm in a pretty sweet spot, amid in this divisive culture, you
Right.
know, uh, yeah,
I
which is
love
a
it.
tough time to be a human being. So
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But well, people like us, and thank you so much for being here. But thank you for sharing your story. I love the uniqueness of it, but I love the impact that it's making and that it's going to continue to make. So keep doing what you're doing. You're definitely appreciated out here. Please let our listeners know where they can find you at.
yeah, all things me are it's amydaughters.com.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to reach out and talk about anything we've talked about. And the best part is, I mean, both books are there, the speaking's there, but the
Yeah,
best part is the mailing address is on the website.
there
So
you
if you
go.
want somebody to write to, send your 2 sentences to me and I will send 4 sentences back.
I love it. I love it. Amy, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your insights, sharing your story, but most importantly, sharing the impact that you're making on the world as well. So continue to do what you do because we need you out here.
Thanks, Coach K. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor, and I hope you keep doing what you're doing too.
Absolutely. Most definitely. I appreciate it. All right, guys, we are going to get out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Chime in, leave a comment, share this with somebody that you think may be motivated by it as well. And if you're somebody that's interested in learning more about how upgraded mindsets can help you discover your 4 Ps, your passion, your purpose, your perseverance, and your performance, then don't hesitate to reach out and visit the website and let's have a conversation on how we can help you elevate your life on all levels. Keep empowered, baby.